All right, we got some kind of off-season talk here at this point. I mean, listen, I still have plenty of stuff coming for the Super Bowl. I still plan on talking a lot about the Super Bowl and breaking everything down. Once the All-22 footage drops, I'll definitely be making a lot more videos. I've already put a bunch on this channel of the various different things. But now I kind of wanted to take a step back and see, where do the Rams go from here? Because they got some issues with the cap. Now listen, nobody has ever said, yeah, sure, we won the Super Bowl, but now we have to re-sign free agents. This sucks. Like, no, like you win the Super Bowl, you're happy. If you don't sign any of your free agents and Matthew Stafford decides to retire and Aaron Donald decides to retire, this was still a great season. You won the Super Bowl. That's the end goal at the end of the day. But you hope all that doesn't happen. You hope you can try and repeat and try and still be competitive in the future. And on one hand, you could argue that there is some concerns here for the Rams. Let's look at their cap situation, where they are in cap space, and how many free agents they have to make sure that they either sign or replace. So here it is. So this is the situation. They're currently $14 million over the cap. So right off the bat, they're going to have to find ways to get under the cap. And you look at who they have to sign. The number I put next to these guys, that's either my projection of how much I think they'll make, or Sports Track has their own projection. So if they had a projection, I just use theirs. If not, then I basically just guess how much I think that they'll make. Again, not scientific, so it might be off by a bit. But again, we're just trying to get around, get a ballpark estimate here. So, Von Miller, Darius Williams, Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, right out the bat, and, Brian Allen as well. Those are three guys who I'm projecting to be over 10 million, Austin Corbett as well. So 2 offensive linemen in Corbett and Allen. And then you also have, Von Miller, who was key this postseason run. I imagine they'll try to re-sign him. But again, I could easily see Von Miller getting a big payday. I think maybe he won't get a ton of years, but I could easily see him getting kind of a high cap hit, which isn't exactly ideal for the Rams, who are trying to win right now. Darius Williams is going to get a big contract. He didn't have his best season here in 2022 or in 2021, but the season before, he was fantastic. So 2 years ago, he was great, and he still did some nice things in this postseason run, I thought. So because of that, Darius Williams has shown he can be a number 2 corner. Sports Track says he could expect $15 million. I don't think that's crazy. Teams, it's hard to get a good corner, and he especially can, he can run several different schemes as well, which is nice to see. Odell Beckham Jr., maybe that cap hit will go down now that he's got that injury. Maybe he wants to stay in LA and is willing to take a pay cut to do that. But again, you don't want to bank on that. And there are multiple LA teams, so it doesn't mean he's going to stay with you. And he's going to want some money. So you're going to have to pay him some if you want to keep him. So again, a couple offensive linemen, and even some of these, lesser known guys are still notable. Troy Reeder, okay, maybe not a star player, but he was your starting linebacker this season. If you get rid of him, you are going to have to replace him with somebody. Matt Gay had a really good kicking season. Missed a couple of kicks in this postseason. The Super Bowl one wasn't his fault, obviously, but he missed a couple other ones. Maybe that'll bring his stock down a little, but he had the second highest kicking percentage this season, so he's going to get a payday. Like someone like Joseph Noteboom, who hasn't really been great over his career, but was really good when filling in when he had to at the tackle position. He's someone who, if you're losing him, you're losing some depth right here. And even Sony Michel, it's like, okay, is Sony Michel going to get a big payday? Probably not. But if you let him walk, you have to then find someone to replace him. You do need those players at the end of the day, even if they're not the most important players. So they need $72 million to sign everybody I have just listed. That means that they would need to clear $86 million, because remember, they're $14 million under the cap, if they wanted to re-sign everybody. Is that possible? Can they, work this stuff out? Well, no, not really. I mean, here are some of the guys that they could cut, and this is the cap it would clear up for them if they cut. So Andrew Whitworth, probably going to retire anyways. But again, I'm saying probably going to retire. I don't know that. He's hinted at retiring. He might still play. I don't know. So maybe that's not fair. But there's a good chance he retires. And if he does, okay, well, you'll push some of that cap onto the future for sure. I guess, technically you don't have to pay him that money if you don't want to. Maybe that's what you do here. But again, you kind of feel weird about that given what he's brought to the franchise. So what do you do there? You also have Tyler Higbee and Ashawn Robinson, who are each getting $5 million. and I don't think you want to get rid of them. And they're getting more than $5 million, by the way, but there would be about half of their contract. For Robinson, he would have about $5 million in dead cap. Higbee wouldn't have much dead cap, but you clear $5 million for cutting either of these guys or trading either of these guys. Maybe that's the actual move, is you trade one of these guys and get a draft pick, and hopefully with that draft pick you can find a cheaper replacement. However, are these moves going to actually make or break anything? Not really. I mean, even if you got rid of all three of these guys, well, now you have more positions to fill. You now need a left tackle, you now need another interior defensive lineman, and you now need a tight end. So that wouldn't really help you that much. So quite frankly, I just don't think that's a great move. I wouldn't really go out of my way to get rid of those guys. There is one thing you can do, though, and that's restructuring contracts. And, the salary cap doesn't exist, kind of. It's weird, the salary cap, because you can, if you choose, you can always decide, we are going to gamble the future for the present. And kind of the mantra has been all in, which isn't exactly true. I mean, clearly it's somewhat true. They're in a tough spot now. They definitely risk some future assets for the present. Do you just keep going down that hole? Do you keep saying, screw it, this is what we're going to do? We're going to keep trying to go all in this situation. We're going to just completely, bet for now and say we're going to pay a bunch of money now and use the cap hit later. That will have a bunch of dead cap in the future, and we'll be in a tough spot then. But for now, we can still compete and we can re-sign everybody if you do that. Or maybe you just say, we've been good at finding these guys in later rounds that can contribute. Maybe they feel like with Robert Woods coming back, they don't need Odell Beckham Jr. as much, and they can let him walk. I think it would be great to see an offense, a Sean McVay offense with Odell and with Robert Woods, but maybe that's what they do, is maybe they let him walk and don't need that. Maybe they say, listen, Von Miller, thanks for what you did, but we still have a great pass rush. You put three. We're already paying Leonard Floyd $20 million and Aaron Donald $26 million. We can't put another $15 million, or in this case $11 million, on Von Miller. I think it might get more than 11 though, just because the pedigree he brings to the table. So maybe you let those guys walk, and just like that, you've now, it's an easier spot. Maybe you trust your depth. They have done a great job at being able to draft guys in later rounds. Maybe they trust they can do that again. But still, that does mean that if you decide to do that, you are going to get a little bit worse, right? You're going to have a little bit of some question marks. And anytime you have more question marks, some of them are going to go wrong. If you decide, we're going to draft someone to try and be a Brian Allen replacement, well, okay, good luck. We'll see how well that works out, especially when you don't have the high-end draft picks. Although, again, they have done a good job of drafting in later rounds, but how much can you rely on that? It's just interesting. You'd obviously rather just have your starting guys. That's what I think about this situation. And also, they are currently still, they need to clear up some space, just period. They're $14 million over the cap already, and you have to be able to fill out a roster. So even, you're going to have to get a little bit more than $14 million at bare minimum. So probably what they'll just do is do some restructures, which, again, the way restructures work, people get confused by this. It doesn't mean that players lose money when they restructure their contract. Typically, it just means that usually they actually get more actual cash now, and then typically what you do is it just changes the cap hit around. That's all it does. So sometimes it'll be an extension along with it, sometimes it won't. But basically, like, let's say someone's contract is they have 1 year, $20 million due the next year. Well, what you can do is you can restructure it and make the cap hit be $10 million this year and $10 million next year. So the cap hit still affects your team, but you're pushing some of it off for the future. The Rams might try to do that, and they might do that a decent amount. That's probably what I would do in this situation. So yeah, listen, again, like I said, it doesn't matter. You won the Super Bowl. You're in a good spot. I do think that they're, it's interesting to see. They could decide we're just going to do what Tampa Bay did and completely go for it and bet for, on the future and see if we can win another Super Bowl now. Maybe they'll let some guys walk. Even if they let some guys walk, they're still a really good football team. They still have again, you got a great coach, you got a really good quarterback, and you're still going to have a lot of talent. You have, maybe the best receiver in football, and Robert Woods is coming back. So they're not dead, even if this is a bad offseason. Might be a bad offseason, though, but I don't think it'll be a disaster either. I trust that this front office will figure stuff out. They've done a great job so far. So yeah, that's what I think about this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.